welcome to the backyard sessions at Type 2 Studios. And Type 2 Studios is a space where your journey and your content is allowed to depart from its original structure and kind of elevate into this new key of exploration and discovery. And these sessions are really about the in-between moments in life and when who you were like no longer fits, but who you're becoming hasn't fully evolved yet, maybe. And so you're kind of living in this state of discovery almost, right? And today's conversation kind of lives like right here. And my good friend Katharine Wyld is here, also known as Kat Wyld. She's an artist, songwriter, and worship leader, standing in the middle of a major transition move that we thought would be really unique to get her perspective as she is making a geographic pivot and how that has kind of like impacted her and also just like the message that you can share with other artists that might be contemplating a move or that have done it before, and then also with your story. And Kat, before we get into the music or the move, what is it this season like feel like right now? We had, obviously like had a discussion beforehand, like how are you holding up with the whole, with where you're at today?
Yeah, I think I've gotten into kind of like a normalized chaos state of life.
Sure.
Because I've moved so much in my life. It's become kind of my norm, but it's definitely that like where within is starting to be like, okay, this chaos is normal, and I'm ready to grow, right? I'm in that growth period of like, this is time for this to end soon.
Sure.
But basically, I'm moving to New Mexico on Friday in 2 days.
Wow.
From Chicago. I've been in the Chicago area for about almost 2.5 years. Okay. With my now fiance, who is from Chicago. That's how I ended up here.
Okay.
And I'm excited. There's always a grief, like I am, of course, a little sad to leave my friends, people, everything that I've built here. But at the same time, I know God is calling out west to the desert, to a new landscape, and there were so many opportunities that started to open up there. So so I feel good. I feel a little bit tired. I feel normalized chaos, but I'm excited at the end of the day. I'm excited for the next adventure.
Yeah, you're trading deep dish pizza for Tex-Mex.
Something like that.
It's pretty good.
For New Mexican food. It's a little different.
Okay. There's not Tex-Mex in New Mexico?
There might be.
Okay.
I'm not a full New Mexican yet.
Okay. All right.
I do know that they have a very specific cuisine, New Mexican food.
Sure.
It's different than Mexican.
Sure. So. Yeah. So you obviously mentioned the move, and would just curious of like how you were kind of led to making. You said you've been in Chicago for a little bit. Now you're making moves in Chicago, and then what were some of the things and some of the markers that you kind of like had to think through and weigh? You said organized chaos, so you've navigated chaos, so you know how to handle the chaos pretty well.
I can do it.
So what were some of the things that like led you to kind of like the opportunity?
Yeah, that led us to deciding to move to New Mexico.
Yep.
Well, it actually started about like last spring. I went on a trip to New Mexico. I went to this place called Ghost Ranch, which is an amazing place. It's very famous for artists go there, and people that are seeking spiritually go there. It's a retreat center. It's an art center. It's where Georgia O'Keeffe lived, actually, who is from Chicago, interestingly enough. Or she studied in Chicago, right? She got a lot of her art start here, and then she was called out to New Mexico. So she lived there at Ghost Ranch, and the land just changed me when I was there. I was there and I felt so open, expansive. And actually, when I was there, the first song of my EP came out, which was interesting. I was just processing this today. My song Belong, which is all about like searching for belonging, right?
Sure.
It's this song where I'm kind of like sick of moving. And I was in New Mexico, and I remember looking up at this beautiful sunrise, like the morning it came out, and listening to this song that I had written about belonging. And I thought, this is where I belong. Like, this is a sign.
Wow.
Something about this land is calling me here. And I came back to Chicago because I was on that trip by myself. I came back to Chicago, and I was talking with my then boyfriend, now my fiance, about it. And I just kept saying, there's something out there. There's something out there for us. I don't know what it is. It was that supernatural thing of God planting this in my heart. And he was kind of like, no, we're supposed to stay in Chicago. We have all these things going for us here. You know, he's in a band here too. And we're getting our lives started here, you know.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, whatever. I'll be patient with you. And we were on the way actually to a charismatic conference, a charismatic Christian conference in July. And I just heard this word in my head, like, look at Taos. Look at Taos, New Mexico. And I looked, and I saw that they had a house sitting gig for a month right then. I applied, we got it, and we went on an adventure out there for several months traveling. We gave up our apartment, and when we were there, all of a sudden things started to open really fast. Within the first week we were there, we were worship leading at a church within like 1 week. We were on stage using our voices, whereas in Chicago, we always wanted to worship lead, but because we're a bit more progressive Christians, we couldn't really find a space for us that would accept us. So there we found people that were accepting of us and were much more aligned, put us on stage immediately, saw our talent, saw our hearts. You know, and then basically this whole community just like rallied to get us out there, got us a house, got us jobs, and we're like, please come serve this community with your voices, with your music, with everything. And we were like, well, we have to go. It may seem illogical sometimes leaving, you know, we're both musicians, we are in the music industry in different capacities.
Sure.
And Michael, my fiance, has a lot of connections here because he was in a signed rock band here.
Sure.
There's a lot of things that we could have done here.
Great guy, and congratulations on the engagement.
Thank you.
Michael's a great dude.
Michael is great. Yeah. Michael produced the EP too, so gotta give him some props. I'm sure we'll talk about him more on this. But basically, it was kind of that feeling of like, wow, we have to just trust, right? Because even though logically it may not seem right, we know in our hearts that this is where God wants us, and there's something that's going to keep opening for us here.
Wow. That's amazing.
So that's why we're moving to Taos, New Mexico.
Wow. And we joked about, too, I know Taos, Mexico from, like, I think there was, like, one Albertsons there or two Albertsons there. But,
there's an
very
Albertsons.
Cool. There's something about the Southwest, you know.
The Southwest is a magical, amazing place.
Yeah. Obviously, I want to jump into the music, but something that you just said kind of stuck out. I was going to save for the end, but I figured, you know, it was, you know, it's a question that stuck out again, too, of like, you know, the pivot. And again, how you and I met each other was, you know, obviously at church. And, you know, you mentioned the two words, progressive Christian, right? So what does that mean to you, right? And I think that I'm kind of like, you know, learning that in some capacities too, of like, just your feedback on it, and I'm just curious to what that means, and you know, and why, again, and then maybe like why you experienced something in New Mexico that you weren't able to experience in Chicago in terms of that progressivity.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre, right? Because you would think Chicago's like a pretty progressive city, right? Yeah. But at the same time, when we were at churches here, that parts of them we really loved. I love the church we met at. Yeah. Met a lot of good friends there, including you.
Yep.
A lot of wonderful people. and it wasn't just at that church, but several other churches that we would go to, we found that the leadership was actually pretty conservative in terms of, not very accepting of LGBTQ community, and just very controlling around people's sexuality, people's relationships, and really viewing like every word of the Bible as like a truth rather than something to examine and interpret. And I was actually raised pretty darn progressive Christian. My dad's actually a Presbyterian minister. And I was raised in a way to always question things and to put people's hearts like above any law or anything, and just to really be like Jesus, right? Listen to people, compassion, love, and that was always leading the way. And I felt while a lot of people's hearts were there, there were these laws or things that were leading the way more than the love and the compassion. And so at the heart of it, I feel like a progressive Christian is someone that lets love lead the way and doesn't matter as much about all the rules or the things, because we live in this crazy world where everyone has a story and a past, and we don't know it all. And so to always be aware of the mystery, and that we are never going to know it all. Totally. And so I think for me, it's like a progressive Christian means having a relationship with God without all the rules, without condemnation, and without the control over your sexuality and your relationships.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. I think, in any type of leadership role, I think is difficult, right? Of like, you're not always going to have, the popular vote, right? So it's like, I think like what you're saying is like this whole idea of like who Jesus was, maybe, of like, well, how do you like kind of like put like, all right, from the other shoe it's like this, and the other shoe it's like this, but like what would he do? What would he do in this situation, right? And I think that, some of that is really so my grandfather was a Lutheran minister, right?
Cool.
Too, and I think that there's a bunch of people that are our age, right, that again too haven't experienced talking to somebody that's progressive, right? Or because when someone kind of like stops that journey or takes a pivot, it's almost like you're like taking a semester off of college or something like that, and it takes a while to reintegrate. And just really grateful for your opinion and your like kind of like viewpoint on that like, people, we are different, but not everybody fits within certain boxes, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a big thing for me to realize too is to also not condemn and judge the people that are necessarily practicing Christianity in a way that I disagree with, right?
Sure.
Because I recognize all the good that they're doing and the population that they are serving, right?
Sure.
Like I did love, and I got a lot out of different churches that I went to here. But at the same time, it felt like there was kind of like a rubber meets the road, where God was like, look, I need you to serve other people. Like this is already being taken care of, but there's other people that I need you to serve. And in New Mexico, we just started to find some more, progressive churches out there, and things that were still spirit-filled, and you could feel the presence of God, but with just some more openness. And it was like, okay, well, this is where I'm going to thrive as a leader. And that's okay, that my path is different from other Christians.
Sure. I think, going back to like the music thing too, right? Of like, when you like, grow up, like, going to church, or your parents drag you to church, or people drag you to church, and
lots of dragging.
You're and then you stop, and this is just again my own experience and how music can kind of connects the world and people in general, right? Of like when you get out of college, when you go out of college, right, or if you want to call it God college maybe, right? Like it's harder for you to get intertwined, right? So to invite somebody that might be a colleague of us into a full-blown worship. Mm-hmm. Are they like again? I think that you have to trust
scare
it.
Them?
Right?
Will they talk to me after this? Yeah.
Sure. Right. And I think that's where the power of like your music and your story specifically like really like hits home. Right. And I think that you have like a really incredible story of like how you're kind of like, taking, what you've learned and you're kind of like implementing learnings and also like vision at the same time, and how you're like discovering this new vertical. So yeah, like tell us a little bit about like the music journey, kind of like how you got into music and how kind of you've developed your brand and your sound.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started getting back into music probably around when I was 28. And at the time I was living in Portland, Oregon, and I was just very unhappy with my life. I mean, Portland's a very dark city in general. I don't know if you've been to Portland.
I've never been to Portland. Seattle, yes. Yeah. San Francisco, California, just never Portland.
Yeah. It's just geographically dark, right? Yeah. You don't see the sun very much there. And I grew up in Oregon, so I was kind of used to it, but it was interesting being there because I feel like it was also an old identity of myself, right? That kind of darkness, the literal shadow of the clouds over me all the time, and me working through and breaking into a new identity, which ended up me leaving that area eventually. But I was there, and I just started writing music as a way to cope, right, with my reality.
Right.
It was a refuge for me. And it was actually, I remember it was in a sister circle. I went to this women's retreat, and this woman was talking about like finding her voice again. And there was a spark in me that said like, oh yeah, like why aren't I singing? I used to love singing. Like I sang as a kid. I wrote songs as a kid. I was always on stage as a minister's daughter. And there was suddenly this thing that was remembering like, what am I doing? Why aren't I doing this? So I came back from that retreat. I started writing music, and I found so much just comfort. Right? When I would sit down to write at the page, ended up buying a keyboard, started playing around. And then I remember I had a friend, a colleague who was also starting to get into music. He was a DJ, and he invited me to this open mic one night, kind of this informal jam. And I was like, okay, I'll just go and listen to everyone.
Sure.
Right? So I was listening to all these people sing, and it was fun. And then they all kind of looked at me like, well, are you going to share something? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe. And I just like brought out this notebook. I had no instrument. I had nothing. But they were like, just share something. And I think I blacked out. Like I just blacked out, and I just sang one of my songs, right? And I just looked at everyone afterwards being like, holy shit, I just sang again in front of people for the first time in years.
Sure.
And my friend was kind of like, whoa, you can sing? And I was like, I guess I can. I guess it's still in there.
Wow.
So after that, I was like, okay, I really love this. I want to start pursuing this more. Some money became available through some grants for me to go back to school.
Wow.
And study voice and piano.
You know how to write grants, huh?
Actually, I do, because I worked at a lot of nonprofits, but it was kind of just through.
Well, there you go, people. You need a grant. You know who to talk to right here.
Yeah, grants are amazing. And I had some ability to, go back to school and study voice, piano. So the teachers there really kind of helped mentor my skills, make things a little more professional, bring out the songs.
Okay.
And that's when I really started to polish and write songs. So fast forward a couple years later, I left Portland during COVID. Life crashed. I can go more into that if you want, but a lot of things happened, right? Relationship ended, job ended, housing crazy, protests in the streets. I left, right? I broke free from the old
2020
identity.
was such a nightmare, wasn't it?
It was, I mean, everyone has their COVID story, right? Yeah. So I have mine, and then I was just like, fuck this, I'm out. I am changing my life. So I took my songs and my keyboard, and I actually moved out to Virginia.
Wow.
And I worked with horses for a year.
All right.
And I just like sang in the woods and worked with horses. Just like found myself, right? Healed from my relationship, thought about what I wanted from my life. And I decided to move to Santa Cruz after that. Santa Cruz, California.
Wow, you're going
all over the place. I told you, normalized chaos.
You're not stopping at in the middle of the journey at Iowa and taking a break in Iowa. You're going coast to coast.
I was coast to coast, taking my little Hyundai, and packed up my stuff again, moved back. And in Santa Cruz was where I met Michael, who is now my fiance. At the time, he was just my friend. And he then was the next level, right? He heard something in my music. We met at an open mic, actually. And he believed in me, right? He saw I had something unique, or he felt I had something unique. And he started helping me write music and produce my music.
Wow.
And he was the one that really started to give the rock edge, because Michael has a rock background. And it wasn't so much of like him changing my voice or my sound. It was just him inviting a new sound to come through.
Wow. Amazing.
So once we, fast forward, then we decided to leave Santa Cruz, move to Chicago to be closer to his family and seek out other opportunities here. Here was where we really rooted down and got my sound, this kind of like rock edge. I developed a lot more grit in my voice. A lot more power, and that's where here was where we produced the EP and brought it to life.
Wow, amazing, amazing.
Yeah, so a lot of the songs have traveled all over the U.S.
Yeah. So it sounds like what stuck out there was the 2020 and how tough moments can cause temporary confusion, maybe, but also unlock, like, the creative pocket, right?
Absolutely.
And it sounds like you use like maybe pain as your purpose and how to develop your brand. So tell us more about like the brand that you've kind of have developed through some of that experience and how that comes out in the music.
Songs.
Yeah, what's the inspiration?
Yeah, the content of a lot of the songs, when I look back on it, it makes a lot of sense with what I was going through at that time.
Sure.
Because I was in this, a lot of chaos, a lot of darkness, but at the same time, there was this spark in me that I had found passion again, right? Music was igniting something in me again.
Sure.
And at the same time, I was on a spiritual journey to really reclaim my body, my sexuality, my relationship with God. And so kind of this convergence of my seeking of my passion with music and seeking God, even though there was a lot of dark circumstances around me, my job, I was in a relationship with someone who was a drug addict. I was struggling financially, struggling with my health, all these things, but there was this like fire inside, right? And that's what would come out when I sat down at my piano, when I was up at night and because I couldn't sleep because of anxiety. It was that fire that got me out of bed, that got me to my notebook, I started writing a song, I started channeling, and that's when I realized, oh yeah, this is what artists do. We alchemize, right? We alchemize our pain into art. It sets us free, right? When you can truly turn that pain into a piece of art, it looks different for everyone, right? I think everyone has that ability, whether they consider themselves an artist or not. We all have an opportunity to take whatever we're dealing with and transform it into the next phase of our life or into something beautiful.
Sure.
And that's what I started to do with the music. And it was so healing, right? When you can get that piece of art out. And so my songs were really, at that time, they were for myself, right? They were like, I need this, right? I have to work through this so I don't die. Like, I have to transform this pain or it's going to eat me alive. And by getting it out, it helped set me free, and actually was the catalyst and kind of catapulted me into these next phases.
Sure.
Rather than keeping me stuck
Sure.
in that one part of my life.
Yeah.
So my life has not been easy. Do I have everything figured out? No.
No, I don't think anybody does.
No, but I see how every song, every step, it was about transforming that dark and finding new power and new life in my light.
Yep.
And going to that next phase.
Yeah.
Wanting something better for myself, and then the goal, of course, is to inspire others, especially women.
Yeah.
That they can do the same.
Sure.
Right? That they don't have to be under that dark cloud of the patriarchy or of, you know, the myriad of dark forces that we face in this life. Wow.
You have another song, Chariot, right? And that actually, I found that was very interesting when I was like looking through it and what the description and how it was inspired by a tarot card.
Yeah.
And the idea of fire is power. And I think you sing, I will dance with fire, turn it into fireflies. So what did you have to actually walk through to turn that pain into power instead of it letting it burn you, I guess, right? Yeah. Do you still have that imagery now, or is like the, you know, your faith and everything that you know, studied and experienced, has that helped?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because at that time, I was definitely more witchy than I am now.
Yeah.
I don't really read tarot anymore, but at the time, that was a lifeline for me, was reading tarot. Was how I connected with spirit at the time. And I always loved the Chariot card because that card represents rising above the ashes, basically, like forging ahead.
Wow.
You know, and in that card, it's actually very interesting because in the front, they have, I believe it's a white lion and a black lion, or two different colored panthers or something like that, right? So the imagery is kind of like you're moving forward with the dark and the light, right? Like you're not letting that stop you. Like you're actually, realizing that those are going to coexist in your life, right? The dark, the light, and you have to keep going forward.
Yeah.
And so I loved thinking of, rising above and kind of like getting in my chariot. I would envision myself doing that, right? When I felt the pain was too much, or like my health was breaking down, I hated my job, when things just felt so overwhelming, it was like, well, can I just get in my chariot? How do I not let this fire consume me? You know, and it's funny because at that time, I hadn't even, I don't know if I'd ever even seen a firefly in my life. I hadn't really been to the East Coast. Later, I moved to the East Coast. I went to Virginia where there's fireflies everywhere. Wow. So once I got there, I was like, oh, my song, you know, this is what this meant, you know. Yeah. But I just remember distinctly that line coming through one day, like, I will dance with this fire. I will turn it to fireflies. Again, it's that idea of turning something ugly into something beautiful, or something painful into something beautiful. Fire, which could be looked at as dangerous, as scary, but a firefly is beautiful, right? And so that was what that came from.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
Turning the dark into something beautiful. Sure. Which was how I felt at that time.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and I think, you know, one as you say, firefly, and how we're hearing like a lot of like, how do you turn like darkness into light? And you know, you also experienced some different like learnings along the way to turn your story into one of like hope for others, that I believe that you wanted to share too, about like as it relates to not only like lyrics and song, but like your body too, that you had mentioned too. So did you want to talk about that experience and like what kind of unlocked something, I guess, a firefly in you, right?
Yeah, in my body, in my life. Well, when I had a very interesting 20s, not really your typical 20s for most people, because I got very sick when I was 24. when I was teaching English in Spain. And actually my whole body just crashed, basically.
Wow.
And I just had this whole like immune system breakdown. Had to come back home. I actually got a lot of surgeries, and my body just has never been the same since, actually.
Wow.
But going through that at such a young age, and at first I really hated my body because of that, right? I was on this trajectory at that time in my life, kind of like the highway to hell, I felt. I mean, I had it all together on the outside, right?
Yeah.
But on the inside, it was like, when I look back at that time, different phases, like I was taking a lot of drugs, I was partying a lot, I was misusing my body, making unhealthy decisions around my sexuality, of who I was engaging with, and I wasn't really respecting my body. I wasn't respecting what I was putting in it, I wasn't respecting where I was taking it, and it broke down. And I had zero awareness. At that time, I also just did not have a relationship with God at all.
Yeah.
I was just totally in the physical and just doing what people told me I needed to do to fit in.
Yeah.
And so at 24, that happening, you know, I was super angry. I thought my life had been stolen from me. I thought my life was over. Lost all my friends, lost my jobs, lost all my money, lost everything at 24. It was really an intense thing to go through. I was like, people are supposed to go through this later in life, right? But you go through it whenever it goes.
Losing all your money? I don't know.
Whenever you go through, right?
Yeah.
So I picked after a couple years of being in that illness and still not being better, but I picked myself up enough, right? I was like, I cannot be a victim to this forever. I have to just like join the land of the living. I have to start working a little bit again. I have to start exploring, finding myself. So through that process, and then eventually landing in music, right, as this new refuge, as this new creative outlet, was so exciting for me. And at the same time, because I was on this journey with my body, right, I was like, oh, I can use my body as this instrument. My body that I was so angry at, that I thought was so broken because of the illness. Wow, this beautiful sounds, right, started coming out of my body. And at the same time, I was also really like awakening to my sexuality and understanding how to love my sexuality rather than hate it or misuse it. And so it was kind of this like journey of understanding my body as an instrument and as a beautiful thing. And then the songs started to pour forth from that.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing.
There all of a sudden was this desire to not just like feel good in my body, but I wanted people to witness it. There was this thing that started to emerge in me, which a lot of women that I've talked to, it's actually like a deep need of ours to be witnessed in our full sexual expression and our full creative expression, because our sexuality and our creativity is so linked. It's literally like our life force, right? We can create a baby with it. We can also like harness it to create music, art, writing, whatever we want. And there's something really unique that happens when we're actually seen in that. So I signed up for this like body positive striptease class in Portland, Oregon at that time. And I ended up performing this striptease, and funny enough, I believe the song that I picked was like a wolf song. I think I was in the process of writing Wolf Girl too.
Oh, interesting.
But I literally became like in this, it wasn't just like a dainty striptease that I did. Like I became feral on stage, right? Like I was like taking off my clothes and like just becoming like raw, right?
Wow.
Becoming this like wolf embodied woman.
Fully embracing it.
And it was so fun, right? I just remember it feeling so fun, so safe, so freeing. And in that moment, it was like something just cut through the doubt and insecurity, or even thoughts of like, could I ever take this seriously? Could I ever take my music seriously or my voice seriously? And was just like, nope, yep, you got to do this. Like, and that's when I started taking my music more seriously. That's when I went back to school. That's when I really started investing time and effort and believing that this was a part of my divine path on this planet.
Wow.
And then fast forward, several years later when I was in Santa Cruz, then I took it to a whole nother level and became a professional dominatrix, which is something that is very unique about me that a lot of people, don't even know.
No. Just kidding. Wow. Wow.
And that was like another level, right, of like being witnessed and taking control over my sexuality, and learned a lot in that experience. The dark, the light, not all good, but certainly I emerged more powerful and more empowered in my body, feeling like I have awakened something that now knows what she wants and she can go get it.
Wow.
She's not going to be a victim to her circumstances.
Wow.
And her art, my art matters.
Wow.
Or the call on my life matters that I feel like God is placing in me.
Wow.
So there was something within being a dominatrix, and I can talk a little bit more about that, but essentially that's what happened.
Wow. So that experience, in a sense, in that season or where you were at in your life, it awakened something in you, and you went through the experience for a little while, and there was like a release point of that version too. Mm-hmm. So tell us about just the that experience, and then also you said you were out in Santa Cruz when, right? Mm-hmm. And then it was you met your significant other out there, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's I find it really fascinating of that experience is where you found
my significant other and my music producer and everything.
and you're I think, right, like you talked about your faith a little bit too, of like how that all kind of like blended together, which is just like absolutely incredible that like Santa Cruz was like your...
Yeah, it was a convergence of a lot of different things there for me. And it was interesting that, it was kind of like as I stepped into, there was this desire in me that came about, like, I want to be a dominatrix. And it was actually... Basically, it was like presented to me on a silver platter. It felt like God was kind of like dropping these breadcrumbs for me. It was like, I meet someone that tells me about what a dominatrix is. Oh, the next day I find a book, and then it was just like, and then I ended up life coaching someone, this client, this man, and then one day it's just like, wow, I think you'd be a great dominatrix. Will you do this over the phone for me? It was one of those things of like, I didn't even try at first. It just was like, these things just kept opening for that to happen. And in Santa Cruz, it was actually, there were, throughout the whole journey of a dominatrix, it's really the dark and the light. Like you're really like just seeing the dark and the light always. Yeah. Moments where I felt like super empowered as a woman, and the moments where I felt like, whoa, super disempowered. And so it was very interesting seeing both just side by side in that, and how women's sexuality is used now for empowerment in some ways, but also can be used as a tool to disempower her in other ways. And I think, like, for example, if I really found a great client that was very respectful, very, understanding that they were there to learn, as much as I was there to learn, we could co-create something really amazing together. Wow. If someone was coming in with a very self-serving agenda, oh, you're here just because you're here to be like the mistress or to dominate me, but not really, right? They really wanted to like control the situation. They wanted to feel empowered. They wanted to feel like they were controlling me. You leave very disempowered, right? Feeling like, oh, that was just all a facade, right? I wasn't really stepping into Lady Vivian, which is what my mistress name was. I was just a puppet, right? I was just a puppet in that situation. Wow. That was just like an order for someone to fulfill something really fast for them, and then they're going to leave, Wow. When someone came with a deeper purpose, wanting to transform, wanting to change, wanting to understand their sexuality, understand what it meant to serve a woman. That was different. So again, it was like the dark and the light. But as I learned to navigate that as a dominatrix, it was like there was a lot of empowering stuff that came from that, right?
Wow.
I can see the darkness, but I'm not going to get swallowed by it, right? I'm not going to let this one person, this one thing, like knock me off my path forever, which is a lesson for us all, right?
Wow.
When something dark happens, when we're encountered by someone that's dark, just not to let that stop us, right?
Yeah. Fight through. Wow. I mean, that's incredible. Definitely sounds like a lot of like learning and education. And, I think anytime you do something, you're doing something different and unique that a lot of other people aren't doing, that path can get a little bit lonely.
For
right?
sure.
So yeah, I think just like talk about, maybe not like in that, in that experience, in the artist experience, and also just how was there awkwardness, confusion around like the world and the people around you when you experienced that, or was that was it like a public thing? Or was it a public thing? Was it a private thing that you're just sharing now, or tell us about that, like that experience of, right?
Yeah, I mean, at first it was much more private, right? When I was first doing it, and then slowly started to tell more people. Obviously, my now fiance, he knew the whole time. Pretty much. He was super surprised at first. Before we were even dating, right? I told him I was a professional dominatrix. And I think it was very interesting, too, that I found true love in that journey, too, because a part of me at the beginning was like, oh, if I'm a dominatrix, I'll never find love, right? I'll just have to do this, and then I'll find my person. Well, God works in crazy ways, right? Like, I found someone that loved me through that. Chose to be with me as I was a professional dominatrix. We had to work through things. We had to set boundaries. We had to communicate well. And then there came a point where it was like, okay, this doesn't feel good anymore. We're going to close our relationship container, and I'm going to stop being a professional dominatrix. But it was a process, right?
Sure.
Nothing's black and white.
Yeah.
So that was really eye-opening for me. Like, whoa, I can be empowered in my sexuality. I can even have other people witness it.
Wow.
And I can be in integrity. And I have my partner that loves me, a man that loves, supports me, and isn't jealous of this.
That's amazing.
And trusts me.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so that was really amazing, right? I felt like Lady Vivian, my empoweredness was like, whoa, I actually can have it all, but I have to be in integrity, right?
That's
incredible. Have to manage it and not like, I cannot like let myself, fall off the rails or do something out of integrity, know? But yeah, I started telling more people. We, telling our families was a big deal. Like telling my parents was really hard.
I bet.
We had to tell my fiance's family eventually, because it got to a point where it was like, we don't want to lie to people anymore. We're not doing anything illegal. It's just a taboo thing.
Yeah.
And I ended up writing an article for the Huffington Post.
Oh, wow.
About my faith and being a dominatrix.
Wow.
And so, yeah, you can go find it. It's called, I believe it's called I'm a Devout Christian and a Dominatrix.
Wow.
And here's what happened when God started leading my sessions.
Wow.
And so
what kind of response did that get?
Crazy.
Yeah.
So that was when I took a big leap of faith, right? Because I just felt like God wanted me to write this article, and I'm a writer, and I'm actually pursuing writing a book right now. But in that, I just felt like I had to express who I was. I wanted to express that I loved God, that I loved Jesus, and I was a dominatrix. And I didn't feel like I had to sacrifice my sexuality for my faith. That's the core of what I was trying to express. And that for so long, women have been told they had to choose between their faith or their bodies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So many people, not just women.
Right.
But so I got an absolute crazy response to that. If you look at the article, hundreds of comments, mostly men bashing me.
Yeah.
Mostly men telling me that I wasn't allowed to have a relationship with God or Jesus. Like trying to kibosh that and control that.
Yeah.
I think anytime, especially as a woman, if you're challenging a system, like a patriarchal system, and you're offering women particularly more freedom,
Sure.
there's like so much backlash.
Wow.
You know, and that's what I felt like I was doing. I was offering something new, right?
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
new wineskin, as Jesus talks about the parable.
Yeah.
He says, okay, I'm bringing new wineskins. I'm bringing stuff that's not going to fit into the old ways of being. And that's what I was offering, was a new wineskin.
Wow.
And it's like, you know, being so, you know, trying to snuff it out.
Sure.
So that was very intense. It was very intense to come up against that.
Wow.
And I believe that I will probably still continue to come up against that as I expand my message and my reach. But that's the only way, right?
Yeah.
The message will never reach the women or the people that it's meant to without stirring up those people that it really offends as well.
Yeah. I think about, like, as you're talking about that, and thank you for sharing that. You know, kind of, you know, you think about, like, again, we've been talking a little bit about faith, music, journey, and, you know, how maybe some, like, older Christians or those that, like, haven't, like, lived in this century, right? Or they obviously lived in the century, but maybe aren't the same age and aren't exposed to some different things, might have a big problem with that, right? And that thinking, right? And, you know, I've taken some, different tidbits of other learnings, you know, outside of, you know, the, what the Bible might be, and just trying to, in this self-discovery, and just also learning this, like, acceptance, like the idea of, like, an acceptance prayer, or, accepting the things you cannot change and the courage to change the things that you can. And, you know, ultimately it's like, it's your life. So if God's telling you to do something, how does somebody who has 45 years in the Bible business know what's inside your brain and what God is telling you? So I think that's what's amazing about having, like, understanding, like, what a relationship is, right? With him, right? Because no one has the same relationship with him, right?
Absolutely. Everyone has their own unique relationship with the Creator, with God, and we would be so arrogant to tell someone what their relationship looks like.
Sure.
We can convict someone, you know, if we really feel like in our hearts we're worried about someone. We can ask someone, okay, you know, I'm worried about you, or, like, have you really spent time with God around this area? But we can't tell someone what's right or wrong. Like, we have to trust that they are going to, you know, have their own relationship, and God will lead them to their most righteous path. I think that's the most empowering thing that we can do for someone. Which is what Jesus was doing, which was essentially just leading people into a divine, unique relationship.
Sure.
And then then the Holy Spirit, that relationship guiding their life, free from systems, free from control, free from the Pharisees who were like trying to do all these things and control people, right? So I think now, I mean, I basically became a born again Christian almost 2 years ago now. Like, I went away from my Christian faith for a long time, and I did a bunch of new age things, was definitely into plant medicine, a lot of ayahuasca. And
let's talk about that.
Went to Ecuador, sat with a lot of shamans. That was a big part of my journey, was where I was in witchcraft. I was doing all these different modalities, and there were definitely things I learned from every path. But there was this one moment where Michael, my fiance, and we felt called to go to this church, and we had a born again experience where basically they called in the Holy Spirit, which is, you know, the Spirit of God, Spirit of Jesus, and it was just, we were brought to our knees, we were brought to tears. It was like nothing we had ever experienced before. I never thought that I would set foot back in a church. I was trying to run so far away the other direction. You know, the ministers, I was like the prodigal daughter. You know, I'd been raised, my dad was a minister, and I was like, this is way too stuffy and boring for me. So I'm going to go do ayahuasca in the jungle. That was like my philosophy, which was exciting. And that is a path that some people walk, but I feel like at one point Jesus just picked me up and was like, I need you to walk this path. And as I got closer to Jesus and the Holy Spirit, that's when my life started getting better. Not necessarily easier, but doors opened easier for me. I had this new strength, this new empowerment, this new feeling of unconditional love, which I didn't really have before in those other modalities that I was doing. Not to say that those are all wrong, but I feel like I was opening so many doors to spirits, to things. I had no focus. I was totally just all over the place.
Yeah.
But rooting myself again in the teachings of Jesus and the Holy Spirit, that's been my path. And to be able to actually feel the visceral experience of the Holy Spirit.
Sure.
Because that's what was missing before. I didn't feel anything, you know? So when I came back, but then at the same time, I also felt this nudge to go back and be a dominatrix. I had given it up at that time. For a while. I hadn't done it for a while. But I cannot explain it. But there was this, I literally, like, I had my born again experience, and then, like, very soon after that, I was, like, starting my dom business in Chicago. And I had not been very successful before with it in Santa Cruz. It was very hard, very, it just wasn't taking off. But here in Chicago, when I had God leading the way, I was much more successful with it, much more grounded, much more able to navigate everything. And yeah, was it all good? No. But it was like, again, the dark and the light. And I felt like God, for some reason, wanted me to have that experience. And then when it was time to leave, I left. You know, I think, you know, more conservative Christians, or a lot of the backlash I got on my articles, like, you know, the devil was guiding you, the enemy was guiding you, that you're serving two masters, you're being deceived. And again, it's that thing of people telling me what my relationship with God was. And it was like, well, you don't actually know. What God's plan was for me there.
Interesting. You know, I think a lot about advice and how everybody wants to give advice, And one of my favorite movies of all time is Tommy Boy, and there's a movie quote in there that always sticks out. Like, you can get a good look at a T-bone by sticking your head up a bull's ass, but wouldn't you rather take the butcher's word for it? And I feel like everybody wants to give everybody, like, knowledge, or wants to say, do it this way, this is the way, and like, sometimes that doesn't always work, and there's not everybody's, like, I don't know. So it's the mentor and listening, and it's there's, you know, I'm hearing, like, a lot of, like, you know, discovery and, like, trusting the path, and you know, some shifts almost in identities through these different seasons, and you know, getting back into the music, and we talking spirituality, it kind of like funnels into this song Castle in the Sky that you wrote about. So you wrote it during insomnia, and when it felt like your whole sense of self was kind of flipping. Like, what was it like to see a future that no one else could see yet?
Yeah.
Did it feel lonely? Was it
felt super
quiet?
lonely, super challenging. I think it's so many of us who are dreamers or have bigger visions for our lives. We're living in our castle in the sky, right? And it's so devastating almost when we try to bring people into that vision, and either they're not ready to hear it, or they're just not meant to be a part of it, right? And so it kind of falls on deaf ears, and you can walk away thinking, wow, I'm just living in a castle in the sky, right? No one can see the vision that I feel is in my heart, is in my head, the vision that God has gifted me, right? But there's also great strength in that, and I think that's what that song is about, is, I wrote it. I remember getting up one night because I couldn't sleep, and I was feeling like there were just all these voices in my head, and that's where the lyric, hey, Dr. Jekyll, hey, Mr. Hyde, why are you fighting, keeping me up at night? Because it felt like there were these old identities, right? Just like warring with each other, like the person I wanted to be versus the person I was, the castle in the sky that I was living in versus the actual reality which was around me. It was like the clashing, right? And it was causing so much chaos, and, you know, at the time, some mental health stuff, but transforming that into art was super helpful. And that song is really about how living in the castle in the sky, yes, we need to be grounded in our reality and face the music, you know, face what we have to face, finances, relationship struggles, whatever it is. And at the same time, we all have our castle in the sky, and to not give up on that. And it's okay to like have that be the guiding point of your life, because that's essentially what's going to lift you out. It's going to take people a while to see that, you know, and just because someone doubts you or doesn't get it or doesn't understand it yet or never, it doesn't take away your castle.
Love that. How can people follow you and your music? If you want to give everybody your Instagram handle, what is all that? So,
well,
where can they find you?
You can definitely find me. My music is on all the platforms streaming. You can find me on Spotify, Katharine Wyld. The Katharine is spelled a little different, Katharine, and then Wyld is spelled Wyld. And you can find my TikTok at Katharine Wyld, spelled like that. You can find Instagram at Katharine Wyld Music, and those are the main places you can find me.
That's
if you want to go check out my article on the Huffington Post, you can Google Huffington Post, Katharine Wyld, DominaTricks, and go read a bunch of crazy comments of people.
It's incredible. It's incredible. It's been real. Thank you for coming in today. Katharine Wyld, everybody, Kat Wyld. Check her music out. Follow her journey on her Instagram story. Read her story on the Huffington Post. Watch her in her new chapter in Taos. New Mexico.
Yeah.
Go tear it up in Taos. And again, thank you so much for coming. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Joe. Pleasure to be here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right.